Christians, I'm in part 3 of the mini-series that I called Make Egypt Great Again. Make Egypt Great Again. It's a survey of Exodus chapter 1 and the things that ensued in Egypt with Israel after Joseph and Pharaoh died, and that whole generation of those who came to Egypt from Israel. The 70 persons in all who were the relatives and family of Jacob. At this time, they had all died. And I am now in verse 7. After the Joseph and the Pharaoh and his brothers all died. In verse 7 it says, "But the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly, multiplied and grew exceedingly mighty, and the land was filled with them." They were everywhere. There were lots of them. Lots of them. And I said in my last post that this was in keeping with the promises of God to multiply them as the sand of the sea and as the number of the stars that are in the skies. They were intended by God to be a large, massive people. And this had no doubt started. And at this point has probably, I won't say it reached maximum capacity, but it reached a number that was so vast that it became an issue for the next Pharaoh to rule in and over Egypt. And as a result, the Israelites. So we see in verse 8, again, Joseph is gone, the previous Pharaoh is gone. And in verse 8, it says this, "Now there arose a new king over Egypt, one who did not know Joseph." Now, at first glance, this may seem like nothing, just introducing the next Pharaoh. But it's more than just an introduction of the next Pharaoh, because it specifies that this new king is a king that Joseph did not know. So there's two elements here that need to be considered. One, a new king. Why new? Because for all intents and purposes, it appears from the historical standpoint that he was not part of the dynasty and the succession of that dynasty that the previous Pharaoh who ruled while Joseph was in power when he ruled. This new king was a king of a different order or a different dynasty or a different group. And for all intents and purposes, it is assumed that he may have been a different race altogether by some. But the point of the matter is, he was a new king. He was different. There was something different about him and what he would want to do that was not consistent with the pharaohs up to this point. He was unique in that he was from a different order, let's say. We don't know what that was, but this is what is indicated by the fact that he is referred to as a new king. And he was a new king over Egypt. And it says, and it specifically points out that this king, this new king, he did not know Joseph. Now, it is not likely that he didn't know who Joseph was. It is not likely that he wasn't aware of Joseph's accomplishments. When it says that he didn't know Joseph, it means something different. It means that he didn't know him in the sense that he appreciates what he did, or he didn't like what he did. He didn't know Joseph. He didn't have an affinity for him. He didn't have a desire to be connected with the policies that Joseph had. He wanted to introduce a new vision because he didn't like the direction, for better or for worse, that Joseph had employed. This new king, when it says he did not know Joseph, he wasn't interested in what Joseph had accomplished or what Joseph had done. Regardless of the success regardless of what Joseph had developed in terms of his relationship with the Pharaoh that he served under, this king, this new king, had no interest. And it's interesting, if you pay attention to it, that it says that this new Pharaoh, it says that he did not know Joseph. Now you would think that it would say, this new Pharaoh did not know the last Pharaoh, but it doesn't do that. It specifies Joseph, which means that this king knew full well, like everyone else did, that Joseph was the one that was running things. Joseph was the one that was running things. And the king had told him before that Joseph, the throne was his minus the throne itself. He could do whatever, and he could exercise all the powers of Pharaoh, but he couldn't be Pharaoh. But this new king, this new Pharaoh, has a different plan. And whatever it was that Joseph had done, all his accomplishments, this new Pharaoh, this new king, he wasn't having it. And that's what you see here when it says that in verse 8 of chapter 1 of Exodus, that this new king arose over Egypt, and he did not know Joseph, meaning he wants nothing to do with whatever it is Joseph did or was doing when he was alive. He didn't care. He didn't know Joseph. Joseph's pursuits and his interests would not be his, as we shall soon find out. This guy was a different animal, and he was a different beast. And Joseph, he didn't like. He didn't know him personally to dislike, I don't think. But when it says he didn't know him, it means that he didn't look upon Joseph and his work kindly. That's it. Until the next one, be provoked and be persuaded.